Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynic Alex, and I wanted to make a follow-up video because they have released the changes, the hero balancing changes for the patch that I talked about a day ago. And I wanted to go over this for a couple of reasons. Obviously, so you guys can know exactly how these characters changed. We can highlight the ones who won, the ones who sort of lost or are not as OP as before, and just discuss the general method of communication from the devs, because that's something that is often discussed at length on YouTube by different content creators in different games, and rarely do we see this level of detail. So I just want to highlight the fact that they released detailed maintenance information, and then furthermore, they released this second dev feedback, which is just about the superhero balance adjustments. So if you just want the numbers, you can see them here, but if you actually want a further explanation, this is what they've released. So this is what I'm actually going to be focusing on today and reading, because not only do they also list the numbers in terms of skill damage going up and down, etc., but they also go and explain why, which is interesting because it gives us a view into what metrics they're following, right? Because they have all these metrics that they're watching, and then they're trying to make informed decisions based on those metrics. We like to believe that they just make decisions based on whatever their plan is to milk the most amount of money out of the whales, and that's definitely part of it. Or that, you know, they made a video because a content creator made a complaint or made a, you know, whatever. But it's a lot of times it ends up being data. They end up looking at data, and the data is what's not going to lie, right? Content creators get emotional. Content creators can be biased or can miss things, right? You know, we make mistakes. We're human, but the numbers don't lie, right? If everybody's using Black Widow in Omega War, and Black Widows on average, you know, have like 10 times more kills than every other class, maybe it's worth looking into. You know what I mean? So anyways, let's jump into it. So they said, we'd like to express our utmost gratitude towards all agents who have been showing love and support. We're always open to hearing agents' valuable opinions. Many agents voice their opinions on the need for superhero balance adjustments, and they know. They definitely know, as an MMORPG type game, you have to have balancing, right? If one class is just superior to another in a game mode, there's nothing stopping you, right? All 8 characters are available completely for free. So why, you know, if you love Omega War and Black Widow is just head and shoulders above everybody else, just play Black Widow. But then it's really going to ruin the balancing of things because you don't want to go into Omega War. I mean, okay, I'll be honest, a 10 versus 10 20 Black Widow mega snipe fest would be pretty hilarious a few times, but it would definitely get boring pretty quickly, right? You don't play Marvel games to see one hero. That's why you play Marvel's Spider-Man or Marvel's Miles Morales. You're playing Super War, you're playing Marvel Future Fight, Marvel Contest Champions, because you want to see lots of heroes. So they have to promote build diversity and character diversity. We want our agents to enjoy the gameplay regardless of the hero, so they basically knock on that. We reviewed agents' gameplay data and adjusted heroes' performance accordingly. We would like to share some details on the adjustments that have been made through dev feedback. So this is really cool, and I actually like this, and I wish, oh man, I wish other games would do this. You know, usually games start off really strong with this sort of communication, and then it tapers off, which is a bit of a bummer, but it's sort of the nature of the beast. They can't give us the same amount of attention and sort of conversation through the lifespan of the game, because as the game gets bigger, more characters are added, more content is added, more servers are added, more players are added. You know, the scope of what the devs have to do and what the communication team can do sort of expands, and then they can't do as many of the little things. But I'll appreciate this for what it is right now. And yes, I will cross my fingers that it happens in other games. So Doctor Strange apparently has a stronger and wider AoE damage capability than any other character. I don't know about damage, but yes, the range of his AoE ult is huge, and the strength is particularly prominent in co-op gameplay. So they highlighted the fact that other heroes, so the other 7 heroes, were at a disadvantage versus Doctor Strange in Special Operation. Now, I had a pretty good time in Special Operations until players started colluding with each other. And colluding is essentially, you know, hey, I'm going to invite you to play Special Ops with me, and we're going to invite 2 other guys from our alliance, and the 3 of you guys are going to do nothing, and I'm going to solo the Special Ops, and then we're going to do this 3 more times, and then you can solo it, and then the other guy can solo it, and the other guy can solo it, and we're all going to get 4 million points, and we're all going to place in the top 10. They've tried to change that by adding a time penalty if you take too long in Special Ops, but if you go and look at the leaderboards for Special Ops, it hasn't changed. The top 7 guys are all in the same alliance. So as much as I can appreciate what they're saying here, the devs have to look into Special Ops even further. Maybe they have to ban people from inviting their alliance mates. Maybe they have to invalidate your score if the gap between your score, between the top score and the bottom score, is too large, right? Like if I have 99% of the score, and then the last 1% of the score is divided amongst the other 3 players, they're not playing. Honestly, if you put special ops on auto, you'll get like 10-20% of the total amount of score, because there's a finite amount of score that you can get. There's a finite number of objectives to clear and damage to do. So it's basically impossible for you to get under 10%. You would like, because gear's not even counted, so your damage is not that dissimilar from Whale's damage. So, you know, they really should look into invalidating scores if the gap between number 1 and number 4 is too high, because this is really how they're punishing, they're cheating basically. But anywho, back to the sorry, I got sidetracked. Back to the actual patch notes. Doctor Strange's ultimate skill range is wider than other characters, which gives him an upper hand in gameplay, so the ultimate skill value, the damage of the skill, has been adjusted. Additionally, there were other balance adjustments for some highly effective skills. So his ultimate ability, which by the way, in my opinion, is one of the worst for damage, has seen another damage decrease. So this pretty much solidifies my opinion that Doctor Strange's ult is only for crowd control. Now, his ult can be very good for crowd control. It can be very good in special ops, especially the one where you have to protect the sort of thing from Cull Obsidian and all those, the Xanderth protection one. It's also very good for Omega War if your teammates have good timing and they can see you ulting and then go in and you can get a bunch of kills, basically, right? You can assist on a bunch of kills because you just suspend all the enemies in the air for a few seconds and then your teammates just go and knock them down. But as far as you getting kills off of the ult, that's never going to happen. Even with my 650k plus power level Doctor Strange, this thing does peanuts damage. I never use his ult in raid. I almost never use his ult in blitz because the damage is just so sad and it takes so long. The animation is so long that I would rather just auto attack. I can honestly do more damage, just single target damage, just auto attacking or cycling through other skills. So yeah, they've reduced the damage, which is one way of fixing the skill. It's fine. And then they also reduced the AoE range on his Master of the Mystics Arc Circular Shackles. I'm guessing there were some players with lots of skill cooldown that were just spamming this in Omega War and being really toxic, and it just lends to really boring gameplay where you're constantly being sort of shackled up, and it's not really fun for anybody. So that's fine. I didn't expect Doctor Strange to get nerfs, so to speak, but he did get nerfs, so it is what it is. Black Widow, on the other hand, basically everything I thought was going to happen to her did happen to her. Well, almost. I didn't expect her to get a few buffs, but yeah, mostly nerfs here. In the case of Black Widow, it appears there are difficulties in early PvE content. She kind of struggles, so it's good that they're sort of addressing that and making her a little bit stronger in the early game. As for PvP content, Black Widow dominates with high single target damage output, so it's good that they recognize that she's kind of toxically good in PvP. To prevent Black Widow from having a fixed style in certain content, we increased the damage of her skills that were underused and adjusted the ultimate skill. So basically they're saying, listen, we don't want everyone to make Black Widow just for PvP, Omega War and stuff, and just do invisible snipe, like vanish, snipe, vanish, and the other skill, right? We want to make her a multifaceted character who is not just good at one thing, right? So we're going to be, they're doing quite a bit here. Her ult, Vanish, is having its cooldown increased by 15%, which is noticeable, and having the damage amplification decreased. So she gets a damage buff when she pops it. It goes up to like 40 or 50%. It's pretty big before any extra, adjustments are made to it, just like the flat skill buff. That's being decreased by a fifth, which is not bad. So she's not going to have as much spike damage. Her Trap Expert Underhand Throw, which is like an early game skill, is having the damage buffed. Her other Explosive Expert Grenade skill is also being buffed. Again, these are early game skills that you're going to unlock soon when you start playing her in the early game. And then her Sniper attack, which again is, I ranted about this in the last video, is also having its damage decreased by 13%. So if you count them together, her main combo is having the damage decrease by close to 30%. If you count the amplification and the damage decrease, it's not exactly 30%, but it's something. And the cooldown being increased is big because it means she can't chain invisibility as easily, and she's gonna have to run around visible and open to being hit from other characters. But you can still stack tons of dodge and basically get away from most heroes unless they have tons of accuracy, and accuracy is really hard to stack. So yeah, I still think she's gonna be really good, but I like that players are gonna have to explore other means of killing you than just Invisi-Snipe. Captain Marvel is also getting buffs and nerfs, it's kind of nice that they're doing buffs and nerfs, like not just nerfs for these characters, right? As for Captain Marvel, upon using her most powerful skill, which is her ult is by far her best skill. She can't move for a while because the skill was designed to be high risk, high return. So she sort of has to stand in place and explode, which, fair enough. However, the skill could not be used until the end because guard breaks interrupt the ultimate skill too often. So basically, what I think they're saying, and I don't know exactly, I don't have first-hand experience with Captain Marvel too well, but I have watched people play her, and I've talked to some high-level, like high-skill Captain Marvel players, that you basically have to wait. You have to like use all of her other skills. Of course, you have to build up the ult, but still, you have to really time the ult properly because if she gets interrupted, she's toast, right? Because there's that wind-up. So they've improved her ult so that her guard does not break while her ultimate is being cast. So this is big. It basically makes it easier to confirm the ult and then get it to pop off without being interrupted, without being basically blocked and denied the ult damage and the sort of the ult buff, because the buff on the ult is really good as well. At the same time, so they recognize that, you know, you don't want to, it wouldn't be very fun to build up your Captain Marvel's ult, right, play really well, and then go to pop her ult, which is really when her damage starts to spike, and then you get interrupted. And then suddenly she's like a bottom tier character, right? Because she's relying on her ult to then spike the rest of her damage with the buff, with the debuff immunity, etc. So that's good that they changed that. But at the same time, Photon Blast, her like crazy scaling skill, was too powerful when they're using multiple Captain Marvels in Blitz or Raid, so they've adjusted the cooldown. So it's probably pretty interesting. They're probably looking at how fast players are able to clear the most difficult raid in the game, like the highest level, the ultimate difficulty, and they're seeing like teams of 3 Captain Marvels or 4 Captain Marvels just like blitzing that thing in like 1 minute, and they're like, yeah, it's probably not what we intended. It's probably not what we wanted. So her ult cannot be guard broken while ultimate is active, and now her cooldown time on Photon Blast is being increased by 30%. That's big. That's very, very big. Basically what that means is if you've been terrorized by Captain Marvels, you'll be terrorized less so. And it means if you're playing as Captain Marvel and you're relying on the skill for big damage, especially in PvP, you're going to have to pick your spot much more wisely. It's going to make Captain Marvel a little bit easier to counter in a one-on-one duel, because if you can sort of bait out this attack and then dodge it, or use an invincibility skill if you're Captain America, if you're Doctor Strange or Storm or something, then you can dodge a big burst of Captain Marvel's damage. But on the other hand, you can't interrupt her ult once she gets it going. So interesting. Star-Lord gets a buff here. Star-Lord's ult, which should be their most powerful skill, of course, was somewhat disappointing for Star-Lord. So I guess his ult, I don't really know much about Star-Lord, to be honest. It doesn't do enough damage or just doesn't have enough effect. So they've adjusted the recovery rate. So he's going to charge up his ult faster so he can show off his power more frequently. This is cool because his ult also plays music, I believe. So it's kind of nice. You get like a 2-for-1 there. So his ultimate skill gauge recovery is going to be increased by about 16%. That's not bad. It's almost 20%. So almost 1/5 faster. That's pretty meaningful for PvE content. Not sure if it's meaningful enough for PvP content. He has to survive in order to cast off his ult, right? And then Captain America, this one's crazy. To highlight Captain America's strength so he can show his might in all content, we improved the overall performance of his skills. His skill judgments have been improved to make them easier to land hits, so like the targeting and the sort of attachment to the enemy, because sometimes he starts punching and then the enemy just flies away and then you just lose all the damage. And some skills have been enhanced so agents can experience a stronger Captain America. In particular, you will see his fort in defensive capability and co-op play. What I'm about to show you is mind-blowing. If you thought Captain America was strong before, Reman X, or Remanx, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but you're gonna be on cloud 9, dude. Basically, every single thing is like, every single one of these is buffs. Every single one is buffs. It's bananas. The only possible nerf is that the cooldown time here is being increased. But literally everything else is buffs. His ult, his ultimate skill no longer has the jump. His ultimate skill can no longer be interrupted. He cannot have his guard broken while his ult is active. His damage reduction is almost doubling when you pop his ult from 50 to 80%. He's gonna have more guard damage reduction effect. Bro, like, Cap is looking really good. Cap is looking really, really good. Damage reduction effect increased by 100%. Okay. Yeah, so Cap gets a huge buff. Star-Lord gets a small buff. And then Black Widow gets a bit of a nerf. Captain Marvel gets a bit of a nerf. And Doctor Strange gets a bit of a nerf. Those are basically... Oh, wait, there's one more. Spider-Man. Spider-Man's ult, Spider Burst, caused inconvenience as it obstructed players' view. So this is interesting. They're actually taking into consideration whether or not you can see what's going on. And this is an interesting thing to note because I've almost never seen this brought up in 6 years of covering Marvel Future Fight. And in that game, it's way worse. You can't see a single thing. So it's actually very interesting that the devs care about this. And it bodes well for future animations and the fact that at least for the next few years of the game's life, we're not going to see the skill effects getting so out of hand that you're going to need, you know, a magnifying glass to see what's going on. So that's actually really good, especially for players who just, you know, can't see particularly well. Adjustments have been made to address this inconvenience. So his ult's duration is shorter. So it's interesting. It might seem like a nerf. His ult's duration is lower, so less damage. No. Basically, Spider-Man, instead of his ult lasting for, let's say, 5 seconds, I don't know how long his ult lasts, but he shoots those web bombs and then the whole screen fills up with webs. They don't like that. They think that it's too obstructive, it blocks too many things, it's sort of annoying. So they're basically speeding up the animation, but all of that damage is getting crunched to compensate for the increase in speed. And when I say increase, it's 75% faster. His effect, the spiderweb effect display time decreased by 75%. Improved to register the attack faster. So that means, if I understand this correctly, since the duration is shorter, the damage is going to be more of a burst. So you can catch people off guard and you know, basically kill them in PvP. And you're going to be able to also finish out of his ult and do another skill faster. That's one of the big complaints I have about Doctor Strange, that his ult just takes forever. So speeding up the animation on Spider-Man's ult is actually quite good. So it'll be interesting to see how much better Spider-Man feels to play, especially with his ult involved, and maybe you can pull off some combos more easily to ult and then do another web attack or something like that, because you can follow up with something much, much faster. We always strive towards providing better balance in Marvel Future Revolution so agents can enjoy the game no matter what superhero they choose. Super important to do that. We're always open for encouragement and criticism, and we continue to listen to the valuable voices of our agents. So yeah, I'm down with these skill changes. I don't see much of a problem. Obviously, if you're taking advantage of one of the characters that got a nerf, you might be upset, but even for Doctor Strange, it's fine. I think he's not too strong and he's not too weak. It's sort of like the 3 bears and Goldilocks. He's sort of just right. It's interesting that they didn't do anything else for any of the other characters, which means, at least for now, they're signaling that Storm isn't overpowered or underpowered, that Iron Man isn't overpowered or underpowered, right? They're sort of, you know, they're right where they need to be, or at least they're happy, at least right now, with the way that they're performing. So hit me up in the comments down below. I think I'm missing one other character, but I can't remember who it is right now. Anyways, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of these patch notes and these changes and these buffs and these nerfs. What would you like to see next? And I will see you in the next one. Take care.